Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Today we're going to have some fun with poetry. Carol Ann Duffy said you can find poetry in your everyday life, your memory, in what people say on the bus, in the news, or just what's in your heart. And we're going to learn about poetry today. But our main focus is going to be on haiku poems. First, we are going to watch this video on poetry, on vocabulary up here on the smartboard. Say questions to the end. And then we are going to go over the vocabulary cards right here. And then after we're done, you're going to sign on to your Chromebooks. You're going to join the class with your class code. And you're going to go through the different parts of it. You're going to do the vocab game, or right here on the vocab game. You're going to go to that and go through it. You're going to do the 5 read and respond questions. And then you are going to do the quiz at the end. All right? You can go back and look at the vocabulary cards, and you can watch the video again if you need to get through all of the questions and the things you need to do to complete the lesson. But you need to remember ethical use. That means you don't look at your neighbor's Chromebook, you don't ask your neighbor questions or anything like that, no cheating. You have to do your own work. When you're done with all of this, then we're going to come back to the smartboard. And we're going to watch a few videos on haiku poetry. And then we are going to read a couple of haiku poems on animals ourselves, and we're going to talk about the different parts of it, such as the different ways to write the stanza with the 5, 7, 5 syllables. After we go through the lesson, you are going to get on your Chromebooks and you are going to type your own haiku poem on any animal that you want to do. It's your choice. Whatever animal is your favorite, you can write the poem on that. And then when you are done with your haiku poem, you're going to share it with me. I'm going to write my email address up on the board so that you can see it clearly. I'm going to check over everything. If they don't need any corrections, I'm going to print it. If it needs corrections, I will mark it and send it back to you for you to make the corrections. And then you'll send it back to me again. And then once everybody's done, I'm going to print all the poems and give them back to you. And then you need to decorate them however you want. You can use crayons, colored pencils, markers, whatever you want. You can color the whole paper, part of the paper. This is your poem. The only thing is you have to have a picture of the animal you chose to do. And then when we're done with that, we're going to hang them in the hallway for everybody to see and enjoy your poems. Okay, so if everybody can look up here at the video or the smartboard, we're going to go ahead and watch the video.
I need a tissue.
1 second. I'll get it for you. Let's start the video first. Okay. Watch the video.
Was there something, maybe a food or kind of music, that you used to hate when you were a little kid, but as you got older, you kind of learned to appreciate it? Like, I hated avocado. Hated it. But then I tried guacamole, and now I love it. That's kind of how I felt about poetry. I just didn't get it. It was like the secret language that only geniuses and English teachers knew how to read. Like, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. I mean, come on, Shakespeare. You could have just said you look nice. But the more I thought about it, I realized that, yeah, poetry is kind of like a secret code, and that's exactly what's so cool about it. Every time you read a poem, you notice something different. You might feel one way about it, and your friend might see something totally different. It's really not about being right or wrong. Poetry is different from other kinds of writing. How? Well, for one, grammar doesn't apply to poetry. Regular informative writing that you read in a novel or newspaper is called prose, and it follows established rules for punctuation, capitalization, and sentence structure. But poetry doesn't have to use any of that. They can be long, short, complete sentences, phrases, rhyming, not rhyming. Some poems have stanzas or groups of lines, and some don't. They can be written in first person, second, or third. So you might be wondering, can poetry be like anything? Technically, yeah. But you'll find similar elements in a lot of poems. Poetry started as an oral tradition, and a lot of it is still meant to be read aloud. So if you ask me to define poetry, I'd say it's when writers choose words for their sound as well as their meaning. Sound devices like rhyme were first used to make poems easier to remember. Other sound devices, like alliteration, that's when you repeat the same sound at the beginning of words. Draw attention to what's being said, like when John Milton writes, "Behemoth, biggest born of earth." You know he chose those words for a reason. Another element that frequently appears in poetry is figurative language, language that means something more than just its literal meaning. Poets use figurative language to express their ideas and feelings in vivid ways. One way they do this is through similes and metaphors, when they draw a connection between two unrelated things to help you understand an idea. Maya Angelou writes, "Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise." The speaker of the poem compares herself to the moon, the sun, ocean tides, and hope itself. What do they all have in common? No matter what happens, they come back again and again. She could have just said that, but then we wouldn't have this great imagery of nature and the earth and humanity. Maybe you're wondering what the point of poetry is. Anything you say in a poem, you can probably say faster and more efficiently in prose. But that's like asking, what's the point of music? Song lyrics are considered poetry too. Kendrick Lamar constantly writes similes, metaphors, and wordplay into his songs. Like this verse, dedicated to the days that I slept, with a curse research, my paid dues I'm reimbursed. I burst in the crowd with a voice and crown. I'm a king on the prowl, and I see mama smile. Poets write poetry because it can express some ideas better than just plain prose. It can help you see an experience in a different and interesting way. Anyway, I'm not saying I totally get everything Shakespeare's saying, but it's pretty cool to discover all the little details that go into a poem. Kind of like the lime and cilantro in guacamole. Did I take it too far? I took it too far.
Okay, would you like a video on poetry?
What is poetry like? I don't know poetry.
Well, today we're going to do haiku poetry, so it's going to be a little different, but we'll get to how exactly to do haikus after we do the vocabulary cards. So alliteration is the repetition of the same sound at the starts of words or phrases that are close together. For example, Bill brought blueberries is an example of a sound device called alliteration because each word starts with the same sound. Bill brought blueberries. Figurative language is a language that means something other than its literal meaning and expresses ideas in vivid ways. Similes and metaphors are examples of figurative language, as they do not mean what they literally say and they make writing more colorful. A metaphor is a figure of speech that compares two different things without the words like or as. The snow is a white blanket is a metaphor because it compares the snow to a blanket. Jordan was a tornado. So it compares them, but it does not use the words like or as. Oral is spoken, not written. The oral tradition of storytelling is still part of her family. Every year on her birthday, they tell ghost stories around a campfire. So it's when you say something, you don't write it down. You're orally speaking it. A poem is a piece of writing that stands out based on its use of language, form, rhythm, etc. This type of writing can be short or long and may rhyme. The Beast wrote a poem for Belle. He used beautiful rhyming language to express his feelings. Prose is the ordinary form of writing or speech, writing that is not poetry. Chandra prefers to write prose over poetry. Her favorite genres include short stories and essays. So prose is any kind of writing that's not poetry. A rhyme is a word that has the same sound or ends in the same sound as another word. Flip and skip are examples. The word nation is a rhyme for the word vacation. So it sounds the same. And a simile is a figure of speech that compares two things using like or as. She entered the room as quietly as a mouse is an example. Your smile is like the sunlight is an example of a simile. So her eyes shine like diamonds. A simile compares using like or as, whereas a metaphor does not use like or as.
They're opposites.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you are going to get your Chromebooks out and sign in, join the class on vocabulary, and you're going to do the vocab game the read and respond questions and the quiz. And you can look back at all of these that we just went over if you need to. Remember, you need to do your own work. Don't look at your neighbor's stuff. Okay. All right, we'll get up and get our Chromebooks.